And I want to get your reactions to this, your opinions, your calls on this, 888-589-8840. The first one, I want to get your reactions to women in combat. Now, that was the subject of the column that I wrote this morning, and I'm going to work through some of the content of my column with you because I think women in combat is a really, really bad idea, and I will explain why. Then I have a second column that I want to walk through with you. It's from a piece, an editorial. I've had this in the stack for 2 weeks by a Suzanne Vinker. This is a woman who wrote an opinion piece she posted on Fox News talking about the war on men and the fact that she's running into more and more single men who refuse ever to get married. They've just decided they're never going to get married again. And the reason, to quote her column, is women aren't women anymore. The complaint she gets from these young single men is women are angry, they are defensive, they are assertive, they are blaming, they are brittle, they are aggressive, and that's not what I'm looking for in a life partner. So I am never, ever going to get married. So you've got more women now that want to get married. The feminist movement has petered out for them. They've realized it doesn't offer what they thought it did. So they'd love to get married. They'd love to raise a family. They'd love the house with a white picket fence. And they're finding that guys have been so shredded by feminism that they're not interested. And they're not interested because they meet so many women who have been dramatically impacted by the feminist movement. So that's the question that I have for you. In your opinion, has the feminist movement, has our culture, let me put it this way, has our culture robbed the women in our culture of their femininity? And has it robbed men of their masculinity? We're going to take calls on this subject. So, and then here's the third story. It's about a guy who is a mission leader for CRU, C-R-U. That's what used to be Campus Crusade for Christ. Now I got to find it in my stack here. I know it is in here somewhere. Where did I put that thing? Anyway, I can give you the basic details while I'm hunting around for the story, which I just was looking at it a minute ago. But anyway, he was a leader for CRU, C-R-U, which is what Campus Crusade for Christ used to, it's what used to be Campus Crusade for Christ. Now it's called CRU, C-R-U. Now he is a mission leader for his team on his campus in Tennessee. Again, I don't know. Oh, here it is. Here's the article. University of Louisville. So he's the head of what used to be the Campus Crusade for Christ chapter on the University of Louisville, and he has been demoted because he refused to allow a female staff member to teach Bible studies in a mixed gender setting. Now, this is in a piece called the Christian Post, is where this article is found. And the thing that struck me is there's no mention in this article at all of the scriptures. There's no scriptural citations. There's no quote from scriptures. All it says is he was stripped of his title and he was demoted because he would not allow a woman to teach a mixed gender Bible study. And apparently Campus Crusade for Christ now has got a policy that male and female staff share in leadership duties, including teaching the Bible. Now, since assuming the position as a campus leader of Louisville in 2009, Harmon has allowed women to speak on ministry-related topics to mixed-gender audiences, but has stopped short of letting women on the staff teach the Bible to men. He believes Scripture doesn't permit women to teach men. But there's no citation in this news piece about what Scripture passages he's resting his position on. They just don't talk about it. So when one of the women on his staff asked Harmon if women could teach the Bible, Harmon replied that they could not. So Campus Crusade for Christ leaders, CRU leaders, regional officials were made aware. They urged him to accept the organization's policy of allowing women to teach men the scriptures, that unless he changed his position, he could no longer serve as team leader. He said, look, I can't. This is a matter of conscience for me. It's a matter of my conviction of what the Bible teaches. I'm not going to be able to do it. So he has been demoted. And he'd been there serving in that position for 11 years. So I'd like to know what you think about that. Demoted because he believes the Scripture does not permit women to teach men. And again, no citation of Scripture, no discussion about what passages of Scripture this leader, name is Daniel Harmon, might have based that position on. So I'd like to get your reaction to that. Then I've got this piece entitled The War on Men. Suzanne Vinker, a woman, wrote this on Fox News. I'll read some excerpts from it. The battle of the sexes is alive and well. According to Pew Research Center, the share of women ages 18 to 34 that say having a successful marriage is one of the most important things in their lives rose 9 percentage points since 1997, from 28% to 37%. So these are women 18 to 34. 28% of them said that having a successful marriage is one of the most important things in life back in 1997. That number is now up to 37%. It's up 9%. So the bloom of this whole feminist thing, you can have it all. Women need men like a fish needs a bicycle. All of that stuff, that's gone. The bloom is off the rose on that deal. Now they want to get married and find a good man and raise a family. But for men, she says, the opposite has occurred. In 1997, 35% of men in the same age bracket said having a successful marriage was very important. That number has now dropped to 29%. So this is a weird thing. Believe it or not, modern women want to get married. Trouble is, men don't. For the first time in history, she points out, women have become the majority in the U.S. workforce. They're also getting most of the college degrees. The problem, the new phenomenon, has changed the dance between men and women. Now, she's the author of 3 books on the American family and its intersection with pop culture. And she says, look in this column, that she has spoken with hundreds, thousands of men and women. And she says, I accidentally stumbled upon a subculture of men who've told me in no uncertain terms, she says, that they're never getting married. When I ask them why, the answer is always the same. Women aren't women anymore. Now, she goes on to say, men haven't changed much. They had no revolution that demanded it, but women have changed dramatically. And she says this is a woman writing. I'm not putting words in her mouth. I'm just reading to you her words. In a nutshell, women are angry. They're also defensive, though often unknowingly. That's because they've been raised to think of men as the enemy. And by the way, churches contribute to this. Now, I don't want to be too hard on pastors, but I've noticed this, and watch for this next year. When you get to Mother's Day, what happens? Pastor brings out a big bouquet of flowers, bouquet of roses, says wonderful, wonderful things about the role of women, about the role of mothers in life, how irreplaceable they are, what a treasure they are. They give bouquets to the woman that's been the mother the longest. They give bouquets to the newest mother in the batch. Now, what happens on Father's Day? What happens? The pastor brings out a baseball bat. He doesn't say glowing things about the contribution that fathers have made to the lives of their families, the sacrifices that they've made, the hours that they have worked to provide for their families, the way they've set aside some of their own ambitions and preferences in order to serve their wives and serve their family. No, they just beat him about the head and shoulders with a baseball bat. And pastors often feed into this complex where if there is a problem, it is always the man's fault. That's kind of the default position in the church as well as in culture. So men are being beaten down, browbeaten by their own pastors, told that they're the source of all the problems in the marriage and the family. And certainly it's not that they're not a part of the problem, because they are. But the problem is that they are tagged with 100% of the blame, and they know it's not true. They know that their wives share some culpability. They're willing to acknowledge their shortcomings and their flaws and their problems, but they realize, look, it takes 2 to tango. And that's a simplistic way of looking at life, but it's reinforced by their pastors. And this woman is saying that's the message that's reinforced in our culture, that women today are raised to think of men as the enemy. Armed with this new attitude, women pushed men off their pedestal. Women had their own pedestal, but feminists convinced them otherwise, and climbed up to take what they were taught to believe was rightfully theirs. Now, the men have nowhere to go. It is precisely this dynamic, women are good, men are bad, that has destroyed the relationship between the sexes. Yet somehow, men are still to blame when love goes awry. Men have been to blame since feminists first took to the streets in the 1970s. But, she says, what if the dearth of good men and ongoing battle of the sexes is, hold on to your seat, women's fault? After decades of browbeating the American male, men are tired. Tired of being told there's something fundamentally wrong with them. Tired of being told that if women aren't happy, it's men's fault. Contrary to what feminists like Hannah Rosen, author of The End of Men, say, the so-called rise of women has not threatened men. It has, it has ticked them off. She uses a stronger term. It has ticked them off. Men want to love women, not compete with them. They want to provide for and protect their families. It's in their DNA, but modern women will not let them. It's also unfortunate for women, not men. Feminism serves men very well. They can have sex at hello and even live with their girlfriends with no responsibilities whatsoever. It's the women who lose. Basically, they're saying, look, feminism has done more damage to women than it has to men, and she's exactly right. Not only are the women saddled with the consequences of sex, by dismissing male nature, they're forever seeking a balanced life. They can't find it. They're looking for a balanced life, but they can't find it because they've rejected the proper role that men should play in their life. So if men today are slackers, and if they're retreating from marriage en masse, women should look in the mirror and ask themselves what role they've played to bring about this transformation. Fortunately, there is good news. Women have the power to turn everything around. All they have to do is surrender to their nature, their femininity, and let men surrender to theirs. Focal Point AFR Talk, back in 2.